Hello, good evening, everybody. It is now time for us to share something very interesting. Today's topic is going to be about the universal secret that we learned through channeling. I'm Teresa Violet Ray, and joining me tonight is
Hi everybody, I'm Crystal. So nice to be here.
it's so fun.
Always
Last
nice to be here. Yes.
Yes. So today's topic is quite interesting and exciting, especially both of us have done so many cases together. And every time we do a case, we get to learn something new and discover something new. And part of the reason why I want to do this topic today is because that some of the things that we learned are actually going to be quite useful and helpful for other people to be aware of, right? But because there's
Mm,
so many things that we learned, um, we had a pre-discussion on how to keep it a bit more concise because there's so many
yep.
things that we learned.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There's so many things.
Yes. So, is there anything that you feel that we need to preempt before we launch into this conversation?
Mm, I just feel like what you mentioned that every time we go through a session, it's just an add-on knowledge on expanding, right? Like it's really
Yeah.
a lot of expanding what we already know. And I think that just amazes me every time. Yeah.
Yeah. And what is actually helpful is that every time we learn something and then we're able to apply to some of the cases that we work on. I remembered
Yeah.
when we first started working on cases that we solve, we tend to just go into, like reading of the auras, understanding the dimensions of the
Mm.
souls, and then we
Or
go
just
into,
one past life and that's kind of it
yeah,
or something.
past life or yeah, and then we'll heal that, and then and that's where
Oh, and then we also would say like we want to talk to the higher self and that's it, right? Like, okay, let's just talk to the higher self, a past life. We were very maybe being too specific about like what we
mm,
wanted to do. But
mm,
every time, like you said, every time when we learn something new, then we expand a little bit more, a little bit more, and I think the reason why the universe is like kind of playing this little game to drop little nuggets for us, or little golden coins along the way, because I think if it's too much at one time, I think we will also be overwhelmed, or our
oh
mind
my
might
God,
not be able
yeah.
to accept, right? Yeah.
And also, when we were channeling, we have all the guides that come through to support us and help us.
Mm,
And certain guides
yeah.
come through, we were like, oh my God, our eyes are just like, oh, you mean
Yeah.
you are real and you have a conscious and you are able to share with
True.
us and guide us? Yeah, so I thought that was
Mm.
just very fascinating and amazing. So let's start something that's closer to us, right? And it's about
Mm.
our souls, right? So every time we go into healing, we tend to want to check in with the well-being of our souls. But shortly after when we started realizing that when we are working with the soul, we don't just work with the soul. We actually do have to bring in two very important aspects of
Mm.
what is our complete makeup of
Makeup.
the human being. And they are very important: the
Oh,
ego.
the ego and the higher self. And I
Exactly.
think the ego part is the one that is probably new to most of y'all, because normally we don't hear that, right? Yeah, like why would you want to talk to the ego?
Exactly. So I
Yeah.
think, the first time we channeled the ego actually was me and Puva. Puva is also
Mm.
one of a very seasoned channeler. And I'm not too sure what came up. And then we wanted to, I think it was one of the thing that we felt that, the disharmony of the world is because our ego was too strong and all that, all our misconception of the ego. So I said,
Mm.
you know what? I want to talk to the ego to find out why is it so hard, to work with and all that. And that's when Puva's ego came up and a bit hurt and still very eloquent. She was like, ego, we are not here to insist and do things
Like make
or
life difficult, right? Yeah.
life different, right? We have a
Yeah.
job to do. Then I'm like,
Mm.
okay, tell me more. At the time, I was still pretty resistant because There were so many
Mm.
old school of thoughts that shaped our perception of spirituality, right? So I
Yep.
still at that
Yeah.
time had my old school of thought, and that's when the ego said that our job here is to protect you. We're like, protect, like, oh my God, you're always being triggered. He said, yeah, we are
Mm.
here to protect you from pain and from death. And that's when I go, wow, that is a very tough job,
Mm.
right? And subsequently,
Yeah.
when we go into many cases, we talk to the ego, all of them are one, they're volunteered souls, right? Just like,
Mm.
who volunteer to come and support and help
What?
the souls
Yeah.
experience. And their job is really tough because they're here to protect and they're here to protect you from pain and death. Can
Mm.
you imagine? It's like your bodyguard.
Yeah. That is true. I feel that all the cases that we channel the ego. I mean, I remember there was one case that remember we went to the hotel. We did it in the hotel room. Yeah, Ken was there as well with the one of your friend's husband, I think at that time. And like he's not really such a spiritual person, right? But because his wife, I think, shared with him about the things that we did for her, and then he decided to, give it a try because he was facing some challenges. And I remember very clearly, I mean, he was this I mean, you don't normally see a guy that is like high profile person, and you won't expect him to break down and cry. But I remember he broke down and cried when I channeled the ego, because he just said, "Wow, that really sounded like me. That's really the pain that I'm going through," and finally he could hear himself like talking to himself about the pain, the challenges, and finally felt being understood by someone. And I
Yep,
thought that was so powerful. Yeah.
you're absolutely right. Very often when we channel the ego, everybody knows
Mm.
and feels that sounds exactly
Like,
like the voice in
like
their
them.
own head. It
Yeah.
sounds exactly like the voice in their own head. And and it just makes such a big difference when you have that voice
Mm.
speaking and you hearing it loud and clear through your own ears. And it will bring
Yep.
tears because suddenly you just
Mm.
felt like I'm finally heard. It's no longer just
Yes.
a voice in your head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
Mm,
So it's such a yeah, I mean I think when we started channeling the ego, it was really eye-opening for me. But most importantly, I feel that all the cases after that and continuously have just such deep impact and so much of healing that we could do for the ego.
mm,
Yeah, as
I
a whole,
agree.
for
Yeah,
the soul. Mm.
completely agree. So next to the ego, there's also the higher self. So very often the misconception of the higher self is that when people are meditating, they say let's connect to our higher self because that's the
Mm.
perfect aspect of ourselves. And that is not the case when
Yeah.
when we went in. I remembered my one of my first case. I'm not sure if it was you, but it was one of my first case when the higher self really needed a lot of healing.
Healing. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think was it you who was working with me on this?
I I don't know. I mean, there were cases that I recall there are cases that the higher self needs healing, together with the in fact sometimes it could be the ego is doing fine because the ego is doing its job
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
but the higher self says, I'm having some issues,
correct.
trying to, work together with the ego and the soul, so and
Yeah.
they also need healing. So
So
yeah.
so there was this case, right? I remembered when the client came in and you just feel the lack of presence. Like the person
Mm.
uh, is able to respond, but it's just like the eyes is not completely focused and is not able to be completely present when we are addressing or talking to him, right? And when I checked in on the higher self, I go, higher self, how are you? Right? Usually I'll start like that. And the higher self would be like, yes, I'm fine. Then through the way that the higher self said, I'm fine, I detected that
Mm.
the higher self it's like I am fine, but I'm not too sure about the others. It was that tone, right? And it turned out that this
Mm,
higher self was completely disconnected with the soul and the
yeah.
ego
Ego.
because it was frustrated and fed up with the soul and the ego, right? So
Yeah,
that
like
was
not can't work together or something. Sometimes it's
uh,
like that.
so that
Mm.
was also one of the first time I realized that, the misconception that we have one part of us that's perfect. There isn't.
Mm. Yeah.
Number one, all of them play an equal role, just an important role.
Important.
Nobody
Yep.
is better than the other,
And yeah. Yeah, absolutely agree.
right? So that's something about our souls that I thought that everybody's need to have a deeper understanding, because I often see people going for meditation, and they will have specific meditations that say I'm connecting to my higher self. My higher self can heal me, or my higher self can and do certain
Guide
miracles,
me. Yeah.
right? Yes,
Mm.
for a lot of cases it's true, but not all. Like recently, we also did one case where he was really quite interesting. He felt that he couldn't move forward because the higher self and the ego and the soul, three of them all came with strong opinions and different opinions. And the higher
Mm.
self keep calling the ego primitive. So when we checked in some sense, I wouldn't use the word primitive. That was the word used by the higher self. But because the higher self came from a higher dimension, the higher self came
Yeah.
from a 27th dimension, and the ego came from the fifth dimension. So
Mm.
naturally, being such a big difference in the dimensions, the poor soul was stuck and couldn't move forward, right? So he came forward to ask for help to see whether, there's some form of negotiation so that
Patient, yeah.
three of them can work better together. Yeah. Which I think this is a good segue to talk about dimensions. So we
Yeah.
all of our souls actually did come from different dimensions.
Mm.
But we not only go into one dimension, we do experience many different dimensions. So as the souls currently on Earth, we all talk about how some parts of Earth are still at the third dimension. The majority of Earth should be at the fourth, transiting to the fifth dimension. Do you remember like what exactly the dimensions really mean and impact the soul when we say that the soul came from different dimensions?
Actually, I also never knew that there's all these different dimensions, to be honest, and different galaxies and parallel worlds and all these things that we somehow that we are able now, to channel and travel to see all this. But I think one thing that I realized that even though a being could be from, so-called, you can say, a higher, dimension, or a lower dimension, I think what's important that there's no judgment between which dimension you come from. It doesn't mean that, you're from a so-called 10, 12, 20 dimension means that, oh, your life on earth is going to be like so much, I don't know, easier. In fact, I think when you're on a higher dimension, you actually might find it a little bit more challenging because the earth dimension is, so different from where you come from, and you want to experience that difference. I think
Correct.
I, I think quite a number of the cases is, they are from that dimension whereby they're formless, for example, right?
The highest,
And
yeah,
and they
very high dimension formless. Yeah.
yeah, so coming here to Earth to experience all these emotions is so new to them, and
Yeah.
they're
It's
trying to
over
adjust to that,
and can be
and can be
overwhelming.
overwhelming. Yeah,
Yeah.
can be overwhelming. So I think what is important is when we do our healing work, we don't judge which dimension you're from, and actually it doesn't even matter which dimension you're
Yeah.
from.
Correct.
Yeah.
We used to ask that question just to have something interesting like a nugget, but I soon realized that there's no point knowing about it,
Mhm. Yeah.
because it really means that what can you do? You're still here on
Yeah.
earth and you have to live
Correct.
through this life and experience this life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
dimensions basically just means that you have the ability to see things from many
The
different
different
perspectives.
perspectives. That's right. Yeah.
And that's basically it, right? So the
Mm,
expectation is that if you actually have experienced a higher dimension, let's just say 12, 15, 16, and all that, right? Then the ability to take in more perspective and not be
yeah.
so, I guess, adamant about certain way of certain approaches and all that, right? But as exactly to what you mentioned, some of those very high frequency, high dimension beings, when they choose to take on the physical form, number one, they
Mm,
feel very uncomfortable in this body because it's
yeah.
so
Like
heavy,
very limited. They
very
feel, yeah.
limiting. They feel very
Yes.
frustrated
Yes.
that,
Mm,
and they also don't understand why is it that, when they're interacting, they have to limit to the dimensions of Earth, right?
mm,
Like they can't just manifest something and it will appear, and
mm.
sometimes it's frustrating that they could not hear other people's thoughts, or people are not transparent in, like, they say yes they will do it, but behind they say there's no way I'm
Don't
going
know.
to do it, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
confusing. They're like,
Sometimes I think they're too pure.
mm,
Maybe they come with that very innocence and purity, and
I
then
actually I would
yeah.
I would differ on that because some of them have no emotions.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's true.
Yeah, they have no
I think it's
emotion.
just so different here and there. I think, and
Correct.
that's why they choose to come, right? They choose to
To have that
experience like,
experience.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like why you go Disneyland, because why don't you just stay in, I don't know, stay where you are? Why you want to go to Disneyland or Disney World or Universal to experience all the
Yeah.
roller coaster, right? Yeah.
Correct. I
So
think, yeah, that's a good point. So I thought that's very important. So importantly, a person who wants to function well, it's when the higher self, the ego, and the soul
oh,
have all come to an agreement of how they want to take this
support
life
and yeah.
experience. So yeah, the higher
Mm,
self and the ego, they are not in charge. They are here as support, right?
mm,
I remember there are sometimes they blame their ego or they blame, certain things, right? So then we have to remind the soul to say that you are in charge. You are the
yeah.
ones who have to listen to the counsel. And that's when sometimes there's negotiation of how three of them can agree to work together.
Yeah.
And it's so important that they learn to work together because that is also one of their experiences they sign up for is how to work together and how to learn
Mm,
together and how to experience this humanity and journey of being a human together. So
mm. It's true.
that's the fun. That's the fun thing. Um, Next week we'll talk a little bit more about the soul's journey of how they're going to be born on Earth, how do they choose which family. So for those of you listening in, you just tune in next week. But for
Yeah.
today, we're going to touch a bit more on the generic.
Yeah, January. Yeah. I think
So,
the other thing perhaps we can share also is that yeah, I mean at least for me as well, when I first channeled it's beings that I'm so familiar with, like
mm,
Jesus and Mother Mary, and Lord Buddha also comes to support, and Kuan Yin. And then it got expanded a little more to the ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses,
mm,
which I'm not very familiar with, but yeah, so it's interesting how they come, or certain goddesses that I've never heard before would come, like um I mean Isis, of course, I did know about Isis, goddess Isis, and there were a lot of other Greek goddesses which I wasn't actually familiar, but they come true. And then there
Aphrodite.
would be, yeah, Aphrodite. I just wanted to say that because I was thinking what's the name? I didn't want to get it wrong. I know it's A
Aphrodite.
for air for something. Yeah,
Yeah,
you took it from me. Very good.
yeah.
Yeah, and then there's of course the the mermaids, um,
Mm,
Pegasus, all these
icons.
fairies.
Yeah,
Yeah, and oh, and the wizard Merlin came. I mean that was a big thing for me when Merlin came. I was like, because
yeah,
Merlin was knocking on my door, and I was like, who are you?
yeah. And when you
right?
talk about door, you're talking about literally hearing him
Yeah,
say
yes. Like,
through like
hello, like I'm like, who are
yeah.
you? I'm like Merlin, like, what are you doing here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're one of the channelers who question, challenge all of them
Yes.
all the time. I thought it was funny because
Mm.
so all of them actually are very eager to help. And
Yeah.
that's one thing that I love about our channeling. Because one, we channel from, say, the channel of pure love. So the beings who come through, they really come through to want to support and help us, and they
Yeah.
truly, truly love humanity and want to support us to watch our success. They're rooting for us to be successful. I mean, the number of times
Yeah.
we felt that, my God, humans were just killing ourselves. They would never
Mm.
say such thing to us to our
Yeah.
face. They
Yeah.
never say that
Yeah.
you dumb humans, you're killing yourself,
Yeah.
poisoning your own sea and, drinking plastics and microplastics. They will never say that to us, but they will just have words of encouragement of like, hey,
Yeah.
if you change your ways now, there is always hope. There is always things that you can do better.
I feel it's always very non-judgmental, and they would never tell you what to do.
Mm,
They would just only give you a different perspective and an angle.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I realized. So it's
Yeah.
never of you should do this or you shouldn't do that.
Correct. And I really love
Yeah,
that you brought that up because one of the things that these beings, they are very clear and aware of us choosing this human experience. Number one is free will,
yeah,
right?
choices of and free will. Yes.
They will never be there to be very prescriptive to say that you must do this, you
Mm,
must do that.
yeah,
If not, there are consequences that you'll regret.
yeah, never. Mm,
Don't. But we also realize that when we're channeling all these different beings, they sometimes need to go into discussion themselves, right?
mm,
Do you remember one
yeah.
case when we were working on this case? It was really quite funny because this case was a case where she was in my healing room, right? And what happened was that I was initially doing this as a hypnotic client, right? And then she suddenly went into her past life and under hypnosis. And that's when the past life of her came up, where she was a mute, right? It's like,
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think I
how
did that case.
yeah, you were the
Yeah,
one who
yeah,
did
yeah,
the
yeah,
case, and that was
yeah.
funny because she was mute and she
Mm,
was obviously wanting to say something, and this was the
mm,
past life persona that took over. And I'm like, I'm not hearing you. I'm not too sure what you're saying. And that's when I called you urgently to say that I need you to channel to find out what exactly is happening, why suddenly she lost her voice, right? And do
yeah.
you remember that place where three beings, when we asked for help, three beings came to want to tell
Mm.
us what she's going through? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I think so. I think Merlin was one of them.
Yes.
And it was like they wanted to come to help, but
Yeah.
it was like
They were
I mean
also
they
not
just
very
wanted to
clear.
help. But yeah,
Correct. But they were also
yeah,
not clear. I thought that was funny,
yeah.
right? Because
They
it
were
was
also not sure.
it
Yeah.
was Guan Yin Ma and it
Mm,
was Raphael. It was Archangel Raphael.
mm.
So three of them came. And Merlin was the first to say, I want to help, I want to help, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Merlin, and so here she is, like frantically, her hands was like, oh, she kept taking my hand and she keep, she just
Mm,
completely has no voice because her past life, she became a mute. And
yeah.
then Merlin was like, she's looking for something. I'm like, okay, what is she looking for? And Merlin's like, I think she's looking for a piece of jewelry. Or like, okay, Merlin, I really need you to be clearer. I can't
Mm,
deal with I
yeah.
think, right? And
Yeah.
and that's when we say, okay, thank you very much, Merlin. Let's have Guan Yin Ma, right? And Guan Yin Ma started going into like, what's lost is lost. But like, okay, this is a client just going crazy in the sense that she was panicking when she lost her voice, and she is obviously looking for something. And Guan Yin Ma was like, what is lost, and we have to learn to let go. But like, okay, thank you very much, Guan Yin Ma. And that's when
Yeah.
Raphael came. Archangel Raphael was like, you know what? Just let me heal your heart. And then everything
Mm,
calmed down. So it's quite interesting. I think this case showed me that every um being, they are helpful, but they come with their different specialty. And because of
Mm,
the different specialty, then they have different approaches. So sometimes it may work and sometimes it may not work.
may not.
And as
Yeah.
channelers, we are really just collaborating with them. And when we're
Yeah.
collaborating with them, that's when we go into some level of negotiation, discussion, finding the right solution to support and help our client. Yeah.
Yeah, I think what is important also, I think with all the channelers, and that's what we teach our students as well, that there's really no judgment in
Mm.
whoever that decides to come forth to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like say it could be even someone from the Star Nations, right? The Palladians and Arcturians is always very willing to come and help as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, or any of the Ascended Masters, like you said, and the angels always very ready. So
Yeah.
we just want to allow,
Yeah.
whoever that wants to help to come.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, and that's where we facilitate, like, okay, so how can you help? Because you might be sharing something with us from your perspective, but perhaps we couldn't see it at that time, right?
Mm.
Maybe, but maybe it's something that the client needs to hear. We also don't know, but we don't judge. But I think basically
Correct.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
Mm,
I remember one time when it was during the COVID time, and then we wanted to find out more about the virus and all that. And you were the one who channeling it,
mm,
and I thought you were really quite
mm.
funny because we have a perspective.
Yeah.
perspective that,
We also
um,
have our own human judgment about things, I feel.
but
Well, I
we have
had to
to learn
learn.
it. We all have to learn, like, because our universal medic is the Arcturians.
Mm,
Arcturians are always there ready to help us because they understand our human anatomy very well, right? But also
yeah.
ins and all that. So I remembered you were one of the channelers, and then we wanted
Mm.
to learn about more about the COVID virus because
COVID,
I do
yeah,
know
how it's
that,
affecting the world and all that thing.
because from what I learned through channeling, the COVID virus actually was meant to be an upgraded code for us. But at the time, when they were giving us the code, due to too many satellites around us, and all the codes that are coming through is actually vibrations and frequencies. And because if
Mm.
we actually do a Google, the number of satellites that's around Earth, the frequencies that's bombarding Earth, and the codes that's actually time for us to have an evolution and upgrade was then missed in some sense in the frequency. The codes actually got wrong,
Mm.
went wrong. And I remember when we were asking for information about the COVID virus, um, and you were expecting the Arcturians. And then
Mm.
finally, you let the Pleiadians through. The Pleiadians was like, this channeler seems to think we don't
Yeah.
have information. That was so funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but we
Yeah, I
all
go through my filtration, I would say sometimes. So, but I learn a lot during that process in my own channeling filtration, right? Like because I'm curious. I think
yeah,
that's the thing. I'm just
yeah.
curious about, okay, you're here, and do you want to share a little bit for me so that I have certain like I understand certain perspective, and before I lend my voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have my way, I guess.
No, I do think that's useful because early days when we were training all the channelers,
Mm,
right? When we give a general topic because they are channeling, so anything that wants to come true, they get very excited, right? So I remember one time I
mm,
was working with one student and I said that, okay, let's channel something that will tell us on, how we can bring on world peace. And then this channeler started singing. Then I was like, hello, who's here? He said, I'm a musical note. And I was like, oh, hi, why are you here, right? Because here I am thinking about world peace. I said that, okay, hi, musical note. We are here to talk about world peace. He said, yes, and that's why I'm here. I'm a musical note, and music will heal the world and will bring world peace. I'm like, yes, you have a
mm,
point. And I was like, which note are you? And he's like, I am B flat, not the nicest sounding musical note, but yes, music can heal the world. So there are certain things that we do need to filter, especially when you're working
yeah.
with a client. Not just everything that comes through will bring us the information we need,
True.
right? So I thought that was pretty funny. So yeah. So yes, our ascended masters and our beings who actually come through to help. What other things did you learn about them when they come through to support and help?
They are full of, filled with so much of love and compassion for humanity. And I think often, very often, we would feel it, that emotionally you just can feel that love, like you're in this bubble of love and you can't help feeling that kind of love to express to humanity. It's so deep, I would say. Yeah, it's just very deep. I think that helps us a lot in this work that we do. Because I mean, you want to be in a safe space. You want your
Mm,
client to feel that. And I think sometimes our client themselves, those who are perhaps a little bit more sensitive, are able to also feel that love, uh, the comfort,
the
from the
nurturing.
beings.
So
Yeah, the nurturing.
so like very often when I first started channeling, um, my eyes will well up with tears. And even now I'm actually welling up with tears because I know that they're here. Is when I'm so overwhelmed with their love.
Yeah.
And the tears would just come because there's just so much love and I can't control it. So right
Yeah.
now my tears, I wish I prepared tissues, but but yeah, so there's just so much love from them. They just really love us as humans, and
Yeah.
they don't judge us. They don't judge us
Mm,
for the mistakes we make. They don't judge
mm,
us for the decisions that we and choices that we make. They know that it is our experience. They know that we need to go through it to learn and have a journey of soul expansion and personal growth, that they will be the last person to judge us. So, very often, right,
mm,
when I hear people who say that, oh, God is here to punish you. No, whatever that we go through sometimes is just an experience that we wanted.
yeah.
So,
I think very often they do remind us that as well, right? They do remind us about that
but we
this
don't
is,
believe, right? How often do we
yeah,
believe? I mean, like think about it, like for example, right? The number of times I heard like if the person was born without legs or a person is born you know handicapped or born like a
yeah,
cripple or born with some disease, what's the first thing that people say?
karma.
Past life karma, past life must have done
Mm,
something wrong. But in our
mm,
channeling, we learned and realized that a lot of these souls actually chose to have these
yeah,
experiences,
yeah.
right? So,
Mm,
like one example of this client, I mean not specific client, it was actually one of the things that we learned through channeling. I can't remember which case was it. It could be a guide sharing and teaching us something. So basically, what it wanted to share with us that if a soul had been chose to born without hands and feet, what it wanted to experience was unconditional love,
mm.
right?
Oh
And
yeah, it was. This one was a client. It was a
which client was that? I
client,
can't remember.
my relative.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. The daughter, remember her daughter? Then
Yeah.
I think in one lifetime, yeah, in one lifetime, I think was born with, yeah, without limbs. And
Right.
it was a past life. It was a past life. And then it was because she wants to experience that uh
Unconditional love.
unconditional love, yeah, from her
Right.
mother. Yeah.
Correct. So it doesn't mean that just because we were born without hands and feet and all that is because we have done something wrong and then God is punishing us,
Mm,
right?
correct. It's
And
not.
then the other thing that you brought up earlier in our discussion is that also, once again, people say that if you were born as an animal, it is also a form of
Mm,
punishment.
yeah, but it's not.
It's
I mean,
not.
there's no judgment on what you choose to be born as, right? Whether it's a human or an animal, there is really absolutely no judgment because I think every choice that you make in that lifetime was for a specific purpose or
Mm,
specific learning that you want or specific experience that you wanted.
yeah.
So
And then you
yeah,
want
so
to do
it's
something. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like if we have chosen to be born as a dog, right? And the
Mm,
dog feels that this is the best way to give love. And I made that choice, maybe,
Yeah.
right? And so there's no judgment. It's like, oh, you must done something wrong or whatever to be
Or
born.
like, yeah, or like you're a lower energy being. I think there are some that always says like you're a lower energy being because you're non-human, because human is more superior. Yeah, so I think, yeah, so that we're talking about this, right? Also I recall, which is what we always share with our students, is that we never put any of these beings on the pedestal, and they never ask to be put on a pedestal as well. So even
Oh,
though we channel Jesus, Buddha, or even God, I mean, I have channeled God. Okay, only a drop of of God, I must say, okay,
yeah.
because he's I won't say he, or I just use he, but
He, she, he,
he,
she.
she, yeah.
Yeah.
The energy is so strong that I can even feel my whole body kind of like vibrating in that. It's so strong energy. Um, there's no like, oh, I am above you, I'm higher than you, or like, what different levels of gods and all that. There is no such thing. Everybody is just respected as a being.
Mm,
Even we are respected as a being, right? They
correct.
see us as that, almost like equal, right? Okay, is
Yes.
it equal meaning in partnership? I think that's
Yeah.
the probably a good word. In partnership and in collaboration, all of
Yeah.
us, because we are all somehow we are connected with each other. I'm connected to you, we're connected to even some stranger that's down the street, right? And that's why we talk about energy that's so powerful, because what you say, what you do, it can really affect your neighbor,
Yeah.
literally, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's one thing that I really love about the beings that who come forward to support us and help us, right? I I remembered one case where I was working with one of the channeler to clear the land of trapped souls. So we tend to do that, right? We go to haunted places or we go to
Mm,
specific timeline, to specific land to clear some of these energies of trapped souls because a lot of times these souls may have made a vow and choose to stay at the land when they no longer need to, right? Some of them
yep.
was so long ago where they feel that they are indebted to the land and therefore they need to stay by the land or something, right? So we'll go into clear. And I remember one time we randomly picked a timeline, USA, Arizona, 1800s, right? And I wasn't sure what was happening in Arizona during that time. And I wasn't sure about like what is going to come up and will show up and what are the souls that we need to clear. But because that timeline was chosen, Arizona, 1800s, so we went in and then Buddha said, oh, I'm here to help. I was completely shocked when I go, Buddha, were you active in the US in the 1800s? And then Buddha's like, no, I'm not. But there are slaves here and they need help. And they are women slaves, children slaves, and they are still in their chains. And they're still trapped because they are not aware that they are free.
Mm,
So Buddha came to help to free them. And I thought that was just a statement about like, all these beings, right? Right now in our world, they are contained within a religion and they have
their
religion
followers,
and
yeah.
their followers. But when it
Mm,
comes to the work that we're doing, it doesn't matter to them,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
They don't only show up to help only their own
Mm,
followers. There's no
yeah.
such thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I truly believe if you're truly ascended and you're truly made of that pure love, why would you judge and say that, oh, you're not my follower, I'm not here to help you? That would be the
Yeah.
last thing. But
Yeah.
they do show up for their followers for one reason,
Mm,
or that soul being familiar and
familiar. Yeah.
happy. So there are
Yeah. Just feel
times
more
that,
safe and
yeah,
familiar. Yeah, exactly.
recognize that, right? So when
Yeah.
like a lot of souls who are not able to forgive themselves, Let's just say they
Yeah.
did something, they killed somebody, or then they go into hiding and fear, and then they are trapped and not gone to the light.
Mm.
Those souls that we go in to try and take them to the light, they're not going to listen to us because they don't trust us. So
Yeah.
let's just say if it's a Christian, or if it's a, if it's a Buddhism or something, or even like Indian religion, Hinduism and
Yeah.
stuff like that,
Yeah.
when these deities, these ascended masters who come through, and then the soul recognize them and feel that they have gotten the needed healing, the needed forgiveness, then they're
Mm.
willing to let go. So it's only such cases where they would be specific to their followers because the soul need that
Needs. Yeah. Yeah.
polarity, right?
But
Yeah.
the thing is, we don't even know, right? So I think I mean, it's a good point you brought. The other point I think I also want to share is that we don't know as well. But it's just whoever decides to come, you know,
Mm,
please, we are very happy when they want to come and help, right? So, and
yeah.
it's usually more than one that will come to help and support, which is like what you say, it's just amazing. In a way, they actually will be lining up there. I mean, we very often see it's many of them will be there waiting, and very politely like, okay, yeah, okay, I'm here to help. I'll help. I'll volunteer. They're
Yeah.
always so willing to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that I've learned too as channelers, that the universe really don't have a lot of secrets from us because we came from there anyway.
Mm.
The only thing that they don't really want us to remember 100% of our past life is we are having this life here to try and function, to
Mm.
learn, to gain new experiences. Can you imagine? It's like I was like, oh yeah, previous life I'm a princess, you were my slaves, and then let's continue in this life. My God, right? Then what sort of
Yeah.
experience are we going to have, right? So that's the
Yeah.
only thing. But
Mm.
what that we do, we can access that past life to
Yeah.
heal the traumas of those past life because of
Yeah.
the soul fragmentations. Yeah. So I thought,
Yeah, so that you brought up about that, like when we heal, I think what's beautiful is that when we heal the past life, or we feel that there's a past life that needs healing, how that healing actually has a rippling effect,
oh,
with all the other, soul fragments,
yes. Yeah, I
current life, and maybe even,
yeah,
future
I
choices.
I have a beautiful case to share about this one.
Mm.
So this case was a case of one of my European clients, and she always felt the fear of abandonment. So can you
Oh yeah, I think
imagine?
you shared this. Yeah.
Yeah, can you imagine, right, where you are in a relationship and you're always testing whether this person is going to abandon you?
Mm.
Like, it is a very trying relationship in the sense that she always had the fear of being abandoned. And in one of the channeling, what came up was that she was a queen, and she was a very loved queen. And because she was very loved, she knows that she's protected, and the army will do anything to come to rescue her, save her, especially during the times of war. So this queen was one time trapped by the enemies in her own castle. And she was expecting her army to come and rescue her.
Mm.
The army did not come. She died brokenhearted to learn, well, she felt that she has learned that finally she's not worth saving, she's not important, and that at the
Mm.
11th hour, she's been abandoned. And
Mm.
then she died. So the energy of that trauma is that
Mm.
she's been abandoned and she always will be abandoned. So no matter how much positive healing or positive reinforcement or
Right.
affirmation to know that she's good enough, and she's gone through all that therapy, right? And she herself has,
Right.
after all that therapy, became a therapist herself. But none of that was able to shed that pain that she
Mm.
is not worthy and she will always be at risk of being abandoned. So during that channeling, right, when she was a queen and she was sobbing and she was crying about how she's been abandoned, the other channeler came and said that we are the army, my queen. We finally have reached you. And the army said, we are so sorry. We couldn't break down the fortress and the barricades that the enemies have put up. And we all died, but we are still here. So the army was still at the land. So the whole battalion was like around 700 of them. So all the souls are still there in that
Stuck
land,
there. Mm,
not being able to forgive themselves for not being able to reach the queen. And
yeah.
it hurt them and pained them so much that the queen thought that she was abandoned by them. So you can just imagine just two groups, well, one queen and the battalion.
Like a
So
misinformation,
yeah,
misunderstanding, right?
correct.
Misunderstanding.
So when we healed that, oh my God, the healing was so beautiful.
Mm,
All this army, and then the queen, of course, said that I'm so glad to hear that, I'm not being abandoned and that you all
mm,
are all loyal to the end and that, then there's nothing to forgive, you know. It was so beautiful and the army just felt because the army was asking, saying sorry and asking for
yeah.
forgiveness. The queen was like, there's nothing to forgive. It was it
Yeah, they didn't do
was
anything wrong, right? Yeah.
right, it was so beautiful. So you can just imagine like hundreds of lives was healed. Hundreds of souls was healed and released
Fulfill
back. So to the point that you just said, when we heal that one past life, we actually heal so many others.
multiple souls and even multiple lives. I mean, we don't even know, right? We don't know how much,
We
but we
don't.
believe it definitely would have an impact, a positive impact. Yeah.
So then she continued on to have a better relationship, right,
Hmm.
with her ex-husband and all that, such that she doesn't start accusing him for abandoning her. Like there's no more that energy of like I've been abandoned. And then she was
So
able to
she's,
heal,
yeah.
right? And
Yep.
everybody around her will have such a better harmonious relationship with her because she's in testing. And I can just imagine all those battalions of people who have been healed and released back, and all those people who have taken life, in this current life, that they may suddenly feel
Mm,
better, more
yeah,
positive,
like free, right? Yeah,
free
more
from
free.
having to stay on that piece of land. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up. It's actually one of the big, beautiful secrets.
Yes. I think that would be the ultimate secret, I think, is that when we do this work, I realize, or we have now realized, is that there's so much of, or so many souls that are impacted by the healing. So many, and that we can do so much, not just one, right? I mean, yeah, it's a one-on-one session, one-to-one session, but always there's just so much healing going on. So many, I would say, the positive change in so many lives. We might not be able to see it, but
Hmm.
like I say, I do believe that energetically, uh, is, so much more positive
Yeah. And
energy that's been, released or disseminated into the world.
yeah, and that's one thing about us being a channeler, like while we are curious about, the impact of what we've done, we just go with good faith that whatever we have done,
Yeah.
that we have left it in a better place. Because these souls have been crying out in pain for so long, especially for the past lives when they are in pain. Yeah. Um, I think there is going to be a request to you because there are beings here who wants to speak, and we've never done live channeling on YouTube before. So, shall we give them a voice? Because they are so present, and my tears just couldn't stop coming because just so much love. I think there's just some beautiful message. We'll just let them know that each of them only have maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute to speak.
Okay,
They
okay.
really have a long story and they want to say a lot.
Hello, I'm
Hi.
Lord Kumara.
Hi, Lord Kumara.
So, so wonderful to be able to hear, just to hear, to see all of you sharing about the work that you've been doing and the changes and the positiveness, the impact that it has on humanity, because that is the choice that you have made to serve, to come to serve in this lifetime, just like many lifetimes before, but not most importantly, is wanting to serve more in this lifetime so that we can help more souls to move on to the light, and that we are able to help humanity ascend to feel more love and peace, especially in this time of challenges where there is a lot of energy, a lot of distortment because of misunderstanding. And so much love is required so that when you feel love, you are able to learn to love yourself and then learn to forgive. And with love and forgiveness, then peace can befall upon the earth.
Thank you, Lord Kumara.
I am Isis.
Hi, Isis.
It is so beautiful to watch the growth in the beings in humanity. You have all come a long way. Although there is endless journey, but what I can see that is so beautiful in humanity is that willingness, the willingness to grow, the willingness to learn, the willingness to share, to impart love, to impart compassion, care, and to reach out to those in need. So please continue to do your work. Please continue to be the shining light that you are, to be the fragrance of the flower wherever you go, wherever you are planted. Just like the lotus, it might be planted, not might be, it is planted in muddy waters. But yet, it is so beautiful that whoever looks at it or smells its scent immediately is able to feel that peace, that calmness, that comes, the beauty that comes with it. And that is how humanity can be and will be. All so important, all as beautiful as a lotus, all able to give the beauty of a lotus.
Thank you. Thank you, Isis. That's beautiful.
I am Archangel Michael.
Hello, Michael.
I just want to say that I do enjoy my work in helping humanity to support, to protect, to be There to remind that you are not walking this journey alone. You are never alone. We are just a call away. We are sometimes just next to you without you knowing. Actually, we are already protecting you, but you do not know. But that's okay. But when you are aware, perhaps just say hello.
Yes, Michael, we'll say hello to you.
I think enough leh. Got many now.
Who else wants to come through? There was a lot of them, right? Because
Yeah,
my
yeah.
tears couldn't stop because it means that there is an accumulation of a lot of loving beings.
Yes. Like there's Jesus, there's Mother Mary also.
Let them through.
From my lifetime walking on earth has not gone in vain, definitely. What I have taught is still being taught. But most importantly, what I see now is the expansion of humanity
Is
in the
Jesus?
words that I speak. Yes,
Hello, Jesus.
I think I do not need introduction.
Ooh.
Yes. But I humbly come to say that I am absolutely honored and happy to see how humanity is working beyond boundaries, supporting and helping each other. And like I mentioned, expanding in its knowledge and acceptance of all. And I pray that they will continue to be so. Whenever they pray to me, I will remind them there is no judgment with person A or B or C. There is none. We are all equal. We are all same. We are all brothers and sisters coming together as a big family to live here on earth so that we can support each other just like you would your own family. And that is important to hold on to that. You would not hurt your family member. You would not speak ill of your family member. You would not even think that your family member is out there to hurt you. No, we are all here to support each other through your journey, through the good and through the challenges, to the joys and the sadness. Because only through that experience that you are able to know what is joy. When you have sadness and experience sadness, then you understand what is the true meaning of joy and peace. And therefore, you will be grateful for that. It's important to feel and be grateful for all the blessings that you have and all the interesting journey that you have chosen as well. I am here, always, I am here.
Thank you, Jesus.
Mm. Hello,
Hi.
I am a pixie fairy.
Oh, hello. Thanks for coming.
Yes, I just want to say that I'm glad I can lend my voice today.
Mm, yes. What would you like to say?
I want to say that life can be fun if you see the fun in life. That's what I want to say.
Thank you. It's very wise words and very fun to know. Is it the Dark Prince?
No, it's actually those like the mermaids and the Pegasus.
I see.
Just saying that they are there
Good to know. Good to know. Good
and
to know.
that when we want to sometimes travel to another place, they can take us.
Oh, nice. Especially those who are dreaming and they want to dream
Yes.
to different places.
Mm.
Beautiful.
Say they are more than happy to bring us there.
With the fairy dust and the Pegasus wings. We'll have one more.
So the Prince of Darkness, the Prince
Hello?
of the Night.
Prince of the Night.
Yes,
Hello.
I must be politically correct. Yes, indeed, it is truly wonderful to see how things are turning out, that you're willing to step out in your power, and that, as you shared, there is no judgment in the role that you choose to play on earth in this lifetime. Each lifetime, you choose a different role. Sometimes you might be so called, no, actually, in every lifetime, you are playing the lead role. However, the lead role can have different kinds of experiences. Sometimes the lead might choose to be a king. Sometimes the lead might choose to be a pauper. Sometimes the lead might just choose to be a beggar on the street or a politician. Whatever it is. Oh, sometimes it would be a he or a she. You have to choose a gender in this on earth. What or sometimes you might choose to be genderless. Whatever the choice is, it was a choice that you have made. And with that choice, you have also promised yourself, perhaps you have forgotten, but you have also promised yourself that you will go through that lifetime living out that role. But what I want to remind you is that so many of all the beings play the supporting roles in your movie. You can say you are like a movie star in your movie, and there's all the different supporting roles, all down to the person that is sweeping the rubbish and cleaning up the city. All play different roles. Actually, there are many of us that is cleaning up the cities. Do you know? It's an
Yes,
unseen job.
that's true.
Might not be glamorous to some, but indeed it is glamorous because that is the job that is able to help so many souls to go across to the other side. So, yes, I play the role, as you know, unseen, unheard, do not want to be seen, do not want to be heard, perhaps. But I am always there, doing what I need to do, doing what I know best. And so I want you to know that whatever role that you are playing, whatever role that you have chosen, indeed it is important. All are important because you have chosen it. So, of course. And remember that you are not alone and you are never alone. Even though you wish to be alone, you are not, because the world is just not only you living in it, it's all of us in it.
True
So
words.
be brave in your journey. People would judge you just like people judge me. Do I care? No, I do not care because I know what I am doing. So it's important to know what you are doing. It's important to also understand why you are doing what you are doing. And then you will find and discover your truest, deepest purpose. And with that purpose, it will ignite that fire and passion that would drive you to continue on that journey till the end. In this lifetime only, okay? There is no end. It is the ending for this life.
Thank you. Thank you, my dear friend. Thank you. Crystal, thank you for all those who came through and those who wants to speak tonight. I was really caught by surprise because like all of them are here. I could really feel their love for us so much. Not us as in like the love for humanity.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And true enough, they all come through to share about how much they love us. They love humanity so much. And I remember when we first started this work, there was a lot of conversations about us humanity needing to grow, right? And they are watching us and supporting us in helping us grow. And there are so many events that, they're really watching how would the humans make decision for ourselves. I remember one time when there was so much pollution going into the sea and we needed help in cleaning up the sea. We reached out far, far around the galaxy, asking which beings could come and help us clean our seas because people were pouring radiation into the
Mm.
sea, thinking that that's a nice big dumping dustbin. And the fishes in there, they were saying that how every breath they take is like drinking in acid. And they couldn't breathe, and a lot of fishes were dying at the time. Um, and no one came to help because they say that if we come through all the time to help humanity, you will not learn how to work together and how to be self sufficient. The whole journey here for humanity is for us, for our own growth. So they do know when to interfere and when not to interfere and when is actually good for our own growth. So, but it doesn't change the fact that they do love us a lot and they're rooting for
Mm.
us to be successful. Yeah. So one
Mm.
of
But
our greatest and biggest calling right now is how we're going to be kinder to Mother Gaia because this is the one home that we have and we don't look after it, who will,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
well, that is a good point. I think they are always there ready to support, but what and how much they can support, it really depends as well, right? Yeah.
Mm,
So it's just like when we pray to God, right? Okay, God, please help me with this, right? And then if so-called God doesn't answer your prayer, you might think, oh, God didn't hear me, but it's not that. I think there's always a timing for everything, and sometimes we need to experience something first before, you know, yeah, some supernatural intervention might come through. But we don't know. I mean, it's not
that's right.
our timing, right? It is the right timing, so called, whenever the right timing is.
Yeah. So just for
Mm.
the viewers today, for those who don't know, Lord Kumara is actually our, I guess, mentor and guide for the channelers. So
Mm.
when I first started this class and created this modality for healing, Lord Kumara was one of the first teachers to teach us about channeling and to work with us on how to heal the all the activations that we needed inside to serve as channelers. And he taught us a lot of things that as channelers, like for example, how we channel and how we listen is like listening to the wind, and how that, it is important that we don't have judgment, and how that everybody is here for a role, for a purpose. And we, for those of us who have chosen to be channelers, we
Mm,
here to serve both sides,
yeah.
to be the mouthpiece of those that thought they have no more voices, especially for those hurt souls who really want to be heard. And then for the wisdom of our masters, of our ascended masters and the beings to come through to support us and help us with our growth. So before we end tonight, anything else you want to add, Crystal?
I want to say that's just been such a wonderful experience and just very mind blown every time we do channeling that we learn so much, we discover so much about more about ourselves, we discover so much about because we're doing this channeling work, so also how much more we can do for humanity to support our growth and everybody's growth, and just so much of love, right, from all the beings out there
Yeah,
supporting us and reminding us that we're not alone. We're not alone in this journey because it can be tough.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, well, tonight I think I've been a mess, thanks to all their love being powering and bombarding into the energy, into the place. And I just love it. And so, unfortunately, that means that I will start tearing up every time I feel so much love. But for next week, we will continue this topic because, as we mentioned earlier, the topic is so big and so wide. There's just so much
Mm,
interesting nuggets and secrets that we have discovered that we know that will be beneficial for a lot of people to learn and know so that it supports them on their own personal growth and their own spiritual growth. And then not forgetting to add that we're also having a retreat in April, a very special retreat for people who wants to go into the journey of healing and manifestation. It's going to happen in Chengdu in April 2025. We are so excited to meet all the like-minded beings coming together for the goodness of humanity. So with this, we conclude for tonight. Until next week, good night.
good night.